In the depths of Mordor, I met a girl. Ooh. But the evil Lord was trying to find her, find her, find her, find her. Ooh. Ooh. And that is how the saga of Tom Bombadil was born. Guys, I have it here. I have the Lord of the Rings. Behold, this is not Magic the Gathering. This is Lord of the Rings. This is what we've come to, and I'm all for it. Welcome to a Blake Scholar Magic video, and today we have Tom Bombadil. That is our commander, and we got some characters here. There's Goldberry River Daughter. That's Tom Bombadil's wife, and of course Sauron, the Dark Lord. And this is actually all these cards are played in a single deck, and they revolve around Tom Bombadil here. So let's go ahead and just put Tom front and center for a moment here, and we can kind of see what's going on. He's a 5-color commander. He has no generic mana cost. He is a plains, an island, a swamp, a mountain, and a forest. So you have access to all the colors in Magic the Gathering, which is fantastic when you play this card. He's a legendary creature, a god bard. As long as there are 4 more lore counters among sagas you control, Tom Bombadil has hexproof and indestructible. Whenever the final chapter ability of a saga you control resolves, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a saga card. Put that card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This ability triggers only once each turn. So definitely a build around for sagas in particular. It's definitely going to benefit from having sagas on the battlefield at once. In fact, it can have indestructible as long as there's 4 more lore counters. And basically, sagas accrue lore counters as they go through their steps and phases. So we'll look at some sagas today. In addition, whenever a saga resolves itself, for instance, say for instance, the saga says return a creature, target creature or planeswalker from the battlefield or from the graveyard to the battlefield. To resolve, you would actually have to have a creature or a planeswalker in the graveyard. And if you met that requisite, Tom would see that, the saga would resolve. And then they're the ending of it. And once it, when the final chapter of it resolves, reveal cards from the top of your library until reveal a saga card. So it could be any saga card, and it will just go directly onto the battlefield. So it just regurgitates sagas, which is really cool effect. I think it's fine. And that there is like kind of some more fine-tunery to that and what it means by the thing has to resolve. So for instance, if you have like a founding of the 3rd path and you just like say, hey man, I can just read ahead and I can go to chapter 3 immediately. I can just hit that 3rd lore counter and I'm good. I'm going to be able to hit that next saga, no problem. I'm going to just, use this 2 mana saga that can just read ahead and finish itself. And then I'm going to get into a bigger saga. It's going to be great. But the thing you have to understand is that has to resolve. So if you don't have like an instant or sorcery in your graveyard at that time that's 1 or 2 mana, and it can't resolve itself, then it fizzles and you do not get the action from Tom. So that is like kind of an interesting, facet about Tom. It pairs very well with a card like Goldberry River Daughter. So there's Goldberry. And the reasoning why it pairs so well with Tom is that Goldberry can actually remove lore counters from things and then also put lore counters back onto things, which is really interesting. I could imagine that you'd love to use this on like an Elspeth Conquers Death, for instance, where you're basically reloading on chapter 1. That would be nice, right? So, for instance, you go to chapter 1 on Elspeth, exile a non-land permanent. That's fantastic. And Goldberry is just ready to go. She's not summoning sick or anything. You can go ahead and remove that counter before your upkeep, on your opponent's end step, for instance. You could do that. It could go back to the 0 counters. And then when it goes to your upkeep, it's going to go ahead and put that saga counter back on itself. It's going to actually put one on voluntarily. And then you get to recycle that chapter 1 and you get to exile something else. And then Goldberry all of a sudden has this ability to move a counter as well. So you can actually start resolving sagas with Tom on the battlefield on your opponent's turn. So it's not just your turn. You can actually get into your opponent's turns and start doing these things as well. So that's kind of a big pull, is kind of this, basically I've seen the proliferate versions of this. This is a very, probably like I'd say much more focused Lord of the Rings style, meaning it's basically an homage to Lord of the Rings. Predominantly the cards and such are purely, with that in mind, to kind of stay faithful to it and actually have a functioning deck at the same time. One of the mechanics that's kind of key to this is the ring temps. So that's just a really nice one, of course. And I'll go over exactly what it does, but it just kind of would be nice to kind of like illustrate this. So let me just want to kind of move this back just ever so slightly. And I'll read this card for you. So Sauron the Dark Lord is a 3 generic, then blue, black, red, legendary creature avatar horror ward. Sacrifice a legendary artifact or legendary creature. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, amass Orcs 1. Whenever an army you control deals combat damage to a player, the ring tempts you. Whenever the ring tempts you, you may discard your hand. If you do, draw 4 cards. And what does the ring tempt, you may ask? Well, I'll let you know. The ring tempt is a thing that can be like an ability, the triggered ability that could be like, for instance, for Sauron, it's activated when your army, that creature deals combat damage to a player, so that could activate the ring tempt. There's also other cards that we're going to get into really close here. Even for instance, like the Nazgul, they just do it upon entering the battlefield. So this is just amazing value. See, whenever the ring tempts you, you may discard your hand. If you do draw 4 cards, that's fantastic, right? It's a big 7/6. It's a nasty guy. Here's the ring, so you can kind of see how that is. The ring, your ring bearer is legendary and can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. That's step 1 for the ring temps. So the first time it does it, that's what you basically, if you have like a Felia on board, you can say, okay, Felia is going to be my ring bearer, and now it can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. That's fantastic. So at the very least, it's likely trading, right? And sometimes you don't really want that, but we'll get into that. Whenever your ring bearer attacks, draw a card, then discard a card. So on chapter 2 of the ring tempt, when you've done it twice, you can start looting. That's fantastic. That means you can draw and then put 1 card into your graveyard. That's fantastic. Good selection. So we definitely are into the graveyard. Whenever your ring bearer becomes blocked by a creature, that creature's controller sacrifices it at the end of combat. That's really nice stuff. That's going to be really nice for us for the Frodo, who's like a 1/3 body and just loves to be blocked, because I think it has to be blocked by creatures that are able to block it as well. So it's really nasty against like mana dorks that haven't tapped yet. So we'll kind of talk about that. This is also, if you think about like a Toski, for instance, imagine a Toski just hits the battlefield and then you swing into your opponent. And you have like that aforementioned Frodo that must be blocked. The Toski has to block the Frodo, and then that Toski, even though it's indestructible, has to be sacrificed so that opponent loses out on like 4 mana value. So it's just really good, right? Really good stuff with the ring. Whenever your ring bearer deals combat damage to a player, each opponent loses 3 life. So that's your chapter 4, and that's really good value. That's recently when I was at the LGS, I took out like 2 opponents just through that manner, just kind of draining them slowly over a couple combat steps because I was connecting with my ring bearer, and they were losing the life, and all my opponents were. So let's just like kind of go over the sweet Lord of the Rings cards. We've already kind of saw some of them already, so we can just start from the bottom. And we have Mount Doom, fantastic, just a wonderful land. It's a dual land, which is really nice. Pay 1 life for the black or red. It's basically like paying land value. And then for the 1 generic, 1 black, 1 red, Mount Doom deals 1 damage to each opponent, so it can drain, which is interesting. And then for that 5 generic, 1 black, 1 red, sacrifice Mount Doom and a legendary artifact, for instance, maybe our 1 ring. Choose up to 2 creatures, then destroy the rest. Activate only as a sorcery. Fantastic. And we do have the 1 ring in this deck, so that is a cool little synergy there, so we love that. Here's our Delighted Halfling, just like a nice mana dork that can like act as like a Cavern of Souls. For our legendaries, we just love that. A little halfling there. Birthday Escape. Draw a card. The ring tempts you. So you can see we have these little cantrips that will actually synergize and actually create ring temps. And we love it. We just love to like draw a card and have the ring tempt us. That's fantastic. Kind of just replaces itself. Sam's Desperate Rescue, really good for the Nazgul. You can imagine if you have some Nazguls going and you're like have a lot in your hand, you can, draw a card and then loot the Nazgul into your graveyard, and then you go ahead, play Sam's Desperate Rescue and return that Nazgul to hand. And then you can likely go to chapter 4 or benefit from just ring tempting in general. And we love to have the ring tempt us. And there's many cards, for instance, the Call of the Ring. When we get tempted by any manner, we can pay 2 life and draw a card. It's fantastic. And then it's going to tempt us anyways at the beginning of our upkeep. So it's a lot of good value for the call. We love that in this deck. We have the Orcish Bowmasters again, very focused on Lord of the Rings. This whole pile is dedicated from the deck for Lord of the Rings. Lotho, Corrupt Sheriff, just another fantastic card and commander that's going to let us make some additional treasures, because our opponents are going to be casting additional spells other than their first one a turn, and we're going to be making a treasure and accelerating in that manner. It's fantastic. Here's Samwise the Stout-Hearted. This one will be good for our fetch lands. For instance, if on an opponent's turn we want to crack a fetch, we can play Samwise, we can return that land to our hand, which is nice value. You can even return maybe a removed creature, so it's just Samwise is just very versatile in that manner. And it'll also tempt us when it does enter the battlefield, so we love that. Frodo Baggins, this is the one we were talking about. This one is really fantastic, really a bane of mono green or anything like that. If this thing gets on the battlefield ahead of some little, mana producing creatures, this thing will have to be blocked by them if they're not tapped. And it's just a really nasty thing, because it's not going to be able to be blocked by creatures with higher power than it, because we're going to make it our ring bearer as well. So they're going to have to block it. And, usually we can take out a couple of little mana dorks. Definitely the bane of mana dorks' existence. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Additionally, as long as more legendary creatures enter the battlefield, the ring will simply tempt us over and over again. So we love that. Now, we're almost into the real good juice here. Bilbo, of course, he's just a nice one, because he will tempt upon entering the battlefield. That's what we like. We just want to kind of have that immediate gratification of moving our temps up. And then additionally, it will also have the ability to create treasure tokens upon dealing combat damage. So that's fine. And here is Smeagol, the Helpful Guide. So this one is these are the ones that really benefit from having the ring tempt us, other than just Sauron, who will draw us a ton of cards. Each instance of Smeagol being tempted will look at opponent, will reveal cards from the top of our opponent's library until a target opponent's library until they reveal a land card. Then we get to put that on our battlefield tapped. And that's extraordinary value. I mean, we have a lot of ways to tempt. You can see already we are just firing on all cylinders. Instant sorceries, mostly sorceries, creatures, enchantments. They all are working together to have these ring tempts. And this will just ramp us to all hell. The thing that you have to worry about, I suppose, with that is that maybe pick an opponent you think might go the distance with you, because the opponents that die will actually, you will have to give the lands back, because they'll be leaving the game. You will no longer control them. Yep, because the owner will be gone. All right, here is the Galadriel, and similarly just loves to have the temps. We get to scry and then leave a land on top, and then we get to put that card on the battlefield tapped as well. So they just work in similar ways, right? And they both are great here. Of course, the Nazguls are just massive when they get the ring temps going. I think I got some Nazguls up to about 16, 17. Yeah, I had a couple with many counters on them. The game I was playing in, it wasn't even that difficult. I just had a Felia kind of blinking a Nazgul out every round, and I was just stacking up my Nazgul counters, and it was just getting really nuts. And it also kind of made me think that I needed to kind of make sure I'm having a benefit for having such high power creatures. So I did add the Great Henge, and I did add Last March of the Ents, which just made sense because it is Lord of the Rings. Yeah, if we're gonna have high power creatures, And we do need mana to get to Tom. That is one thing about Tom is he is a 5 mana commander, and he's very mana intensive. So we have to like kind of give ourselves a chance to produce a lot of mana. So having the cards like the Great Henge and also payoffs like the Last March Events should be very good for our deck. So we have all 9 Nazgul here. These are like really stupid expensive. I think they're like $15 now. So yeah, that's kind of unfortunate here. But, you know, I feel like this is a deck that kind of just settles itself because it's so niche and it's, you know, very devoted to the theme. I even have the Hobbit sleeves here, which are really cool. I got a compliment on that from Roger, my man. But yeah, these are just the Nazgul. They're great. And of course, we have the One Ring here. What kind of deck would it be without that? This is just the flavor. All the flavor of Lord of the Rings. We're just really firing here and really, really set on it. And they're good cards, you know. This, of course, will give you that indestructibility and just draw you a million cards. So we love that. And now these are just some of the very special like sagas that actually are perfect for us. In the Darkness Bind Them. This is fantastic. It's going to create us Wraiths tokens, and it's going to tempt us on 3 occasions. Then on Chapter 4, we get to control of up to 1 target creature for each opponent. Tap those creatures, they gain haste until end of turn the ring tempts you. Just brilliant stuff. Here's the Last March of the Ends. And that is like the one that's going to love to see our really high-powered Nazguls and, you know, draw us a ton of cards and drop up even more Nazguls on the battlefield and more strong creatures because you do have a decent amount of creatures, including like you've seen like Sauron and such. They're just really nasty. We have a Valgavoth as well. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. So my opinion about what you should probably try to do with Tom, at the very least, is these first 3 sagas I would probably keep in mind. I think you want to have a couple low mana costed sagas, even the ones that preferably have the read ahead, because this one you can go to just to Chapter 3, but remember you have to meet the requisite of meeting that like stipulation to actually have this resolve. So if like I said again, if I don't have an instant or sorcery and I read ahead and I have Tom on the battlefield and I go to Chapter 3 and there's no instant or sorcery for this to copy it and cast the copy, then this just fizzles. And it will fizzle for Tom. Tom won't see that as a resolve spell. So you have to be very careful about that. That's why we run Sam's Desperate Rescue. That's why we run like you know, Swords to Plowshares and Birthday Escape. We do run a couple instant or sorceries that have 1 to 2 mana cost because we definitely want to resolve the founding of the third path. You know, we want to give ourselves a chance for it at least. So, yeah, at the very least, I think it's good enough, the founding of the third path. I'll definitely look at the deck again. We might even consider like a gamble. It is difficult to kind of fit in all the ring temps. Perhaps we could lose like a Bilbo and not be too sad about it. So just kind of looking at the deck, I wouldn't be too sad about losing a Bilbo for like a gamble, so we can increase our 1 mana shots at this. So even like a Faithless Looting might be really decent. But yeah, I feel like probably it would be fine just like with a gamble. Something like that. Maybe a 1 mana like tutor effect would be cool of some sort. Maybe you guys can give me an idea. Maybe Enlightened Tutor, gamble here. I think probably Enlightened Tutor probably makes the most sense actually. But gamble also just immediately puts a card in your hand, which is really cool RNG. So yeah, that'll probably be the one that we'll pick. But yeah, so there's Founding the Third Path. The major pull about this, no matter what, is the fact that it mills cards into your graveyard. We love to put cards in the graveyard for this deck. We play cards like Treasure Cruise. We have Starfield of Nyx. We have Animate Dead. We're playing Sheoldred, the 5 mana Sheoldred that's also a saga. So it's really important that at the very least, give us a chance by milling cards that are also sagas. So this one will mill cards. That's fantastic. Fable of the Mirror Breaker will also have that looting effect, of course. So we love that about that. Timuret Calls the Dead will also mill a bunch of cards into our deck, and these are all just 3-chapter sagas, so they're not too long. We can definitely get to them with Tom and kind of time that in a timely manner. War of the Last Alliance is like our, very nice Lord of the Rings-esque saga here, and this one will find legendary creatures. It's fantastic. We'll just put them right into our hand. Binding the Old Gods for a little bit of ramp, a little bit of destroying for non-land permanence. We love that. Sheoldred, of course, this one will actually flip into a saga, which is fantastic. I'm not going to flip it because it is a little bit of a foily guy here. But it has 3 chapters, one of which is to destroy target creatures onto the each of your opponents. Destroy a target creature. Second stage would be for each opponent to discard 3 cards. And then the last chapter would be to return all creature cards from all libraries to the battlefield under your control. So that's fantastic. This is going to work really well with Schmiegel, actually, because when we're like getting from an opponent their lands, they're also going to be milling cards into their graveyard, and that will meet that requisite for having, I believe they have to have 8 or more cards in their graveyard. Fantastic. And it's a saga, which is really great. It's a creature and a saga. We just love that. Basically all into one. Here's the Eldest Reborn. And this one is just, it's decent. I mean, it's not going to be great for your token opponents, but it'll be great for your like taller opponents. Everybody would discard, each of your opponents would discard a card, and you get a resurrection, so we like that. We like the cards that resurrect. Elspeth similarly does this, like they interact with the board, they do something on chapter 2 that affects the opponent. Chapter 3, we usually get something back. There and Back Again, probably like the slowest saga we have, but we make Schmog, on chapter 3, which is amazing. And if it ever dies, we create 14 treasures. So isn't that cool? That's got to be cool, right? Yeah, it's cool enough, right? I think it's fine. It's going to be it's going to look a lot better with like our Hex Parasite and stuff, or likely our Goldberry if we can set off that chapter 3 faster than not. Here's Cruelty of Gix. This one's beautiful because this one you can just read ahead, and it's not too hard to find a creature into a graveyard, so that's a nice one for Tom. Love that one. And you just recycle into another saga. It's kind of fun. Battle, and you can even just do chapter 2 and like tutor for something with the Cruelty. I like that one. This one's interesting, right? Kind of hits the board a little bit. You can make choices to like remove some of your opponent's things and exile them for a time as long as it stays on the battlefield. And then at the chapter 3, you create an 8/8, angel. It's pretty sweet. I thought it was pretty cool. Kami War, just a really nice saga. Just, exiles, like a non-land permanent opponent controls. And then also bounces one, and then they'll have to discard. And then, of course, it becomes that 6/6 dragon, which is really cool. Here's Curiobest the Sea God. This is one of a really nasty, really hits an opponent really hard, right? It like basically taps all their non-land permanents. You create like a big 8/8 octopi, and then you gain control of target permanent opponent controls, and you untap it for chapter 3. It's fantastic. Probably our best saga. And then we go into like the things that kind of manipulate, like, the creatures that kind of are part of this, / the creatures that kind of just accelerate us to victory. The Hex Parasite is going to be nice because it can just take off counters from your sagas, kind of reset them in that manner, and we can like relive them. We can kind of time them out too. So if there's like really nice portions of the saga that we really like, we can go ahead and remove those counters and make sure that the sagas stay on board for a longer period of time. For this one in particular, we could pay black and X. So I mean, you could remove all the saga, counters from a saga if you like. And once again, those saga counters, how they add is as either they enter or after your draw step, you add a lore counter. So that's where it is. It's after you draw. So either when they enter or after you draw, that's how counters are put on to the sagas. So yeah, you could reset one. You can start over on Kiora if you wanted to, right? I'm pretty sure you could probably do it at instant speed too, I wonder. Probably not though. You sacrifice it after 3. That's interesting. Maybe we can kind of figure that one out. I'll let you all know. Pretty sure, but as long as you don't get to chapter 3, you can probably reset these things pretty safely and continue the action, which is really nice for the Hex Parasite. Here's the Bird of Paradise. This is just nice for a 5-color deck. I feel like you have to be running like the Bloom Tenders and Fabro Elders, or you're just not going to get there with Tom. I feel you need to run those at the very minimum. This is Skrell for protection. It's also legendary, so it sets off our Mox Amber. It's really nice. Noble Hierarch, this is just that color selection. You get some nice Bant colors there, which is nice. I think you have to run Bloom Tender and Faber Elder here because we have many different colors of cards in this deck in general. You know, we're playing, at the very least, you're going to have this in a Nazgul on the battlefield you're going to be producing too. But for instance, if you have an Annie joins up and a Nazgul on the battlefield, now this is producing for 4. And we need that because we need to get to Tom. We need to get to Tom faster. And the only way that we're going to be doing that is kind of to have that synergy where we're accelerating to him faster. And then once he hits the board, we can even take more benefit. We just know that we can produce 5 colors at once with this card. It would be very exceptional. So the Bloom Tender is really important for this deck. Also the Faber Elder is very important. The Emperor Bones is really interesting, but you can see like with the, interesting enough, like for instance, we can exile some nasty creatures from our opponent's graveyards, even ours. And what we can do is like with like a Goldberry, we can actually remove counters from our Nazguls, for instance, and we can put it back on the Emperor. That'd be kind of interesting how we can move around like 1/1 counters from our Nazgul. I thought that was kind of a cheeky little interaction, and it might be like very hoop orientated, but I still thought it was probably worth it just because we are like moving around counters and such, and we wouldn't even always just have to have that adapt. We might be able to actually move around counters to a degree, which I thought would be pretty interesting with Emperor. So we'll give it a shot. I'm always willing to try new things. Here's the Ophelia, and I think it's probably one of our more important cards, to say the least. The fact that you can, flicker your Nazgul is really good in the beginning. And then when you're starting to flicker in your sagas, your Elspeth Conquers Death, you're really kind of controlling the game from there. You're taking out your opponent's commanders, and you're kind of just like kind of overwhelming them with like value. So Ophelia is just kind of that really, really nice 2-mana shepherd dog that we just love here. Just a fantastic card. Here's the Faber Elder. Like I said, for each color among permanents you control, add 1 mana of that color. We have a variety of so many different colored cards in here already. Even like a Narcy, right? I mean, at the very least, this thing is going to be popping for some mana, and it will get us to Tom faster. And then once we have this, and Tom on the battlefield, it's still producing. Like it's going to be a 5/5. It's going to be slamming in for damage. It's going to be producing a whole crap ton of mana as well because it does have vigilance. So it's just a fantastic card for Tom. Here's Narcy. This one is just going to drain our opponents as the sagas leave our battlefield. We're also going to draw cards from whenever those enchantments get sacrificed. They go to the 3rd lore counter and they get sacrificed. Oddly enough, we have the human bard and the god bard, so it's just like a match made in heaven, like these two. So that's fantastic. We really like Narcy in this deck. Here's Witch Enchanter, just to like remove all those pesky artifacts or enchantments or act as a land. And then we have Valgavoth as that linchpin creature that we have just chilling in the back, just saying, hey, bring me back to life from the graveyard and I'll be doing some nice things, right? Not Lord of the Rings, but it's kind of fitting. It's just a nasty demon. All right. So here's just like our mana producing cards. So you have like Mox Amber, and I did do the Lord of the Rings here. I was intentional about that. So you got the One Ring and Sauron there. Arcane Signet with the beautiful, probably looks like the dwarf rings there. Perhaps maybe a human ring. Fantastic Arcane Signet. We have the Relic of Legends to, help all our legends get there with mana. We have the Great Henge. I mentioned that will be great with our Nazgul. Animate Dead. I thought this would be fun because it's like an enchantment. So we can if for whatever reason it ends up in our graveyard, we can actually resurrect it with like a Starfield of Nyx and get value from it that way. I thought that was pretty nice stuff. Ripples of Death just to get our graveyard nice and juicy and get some cards out of it. Annie joins up just to double our legendary triggers, which is massive for our Nazgul. Our Nazgul that is a legendary, and for Tom, who's just going to have double the triggers when a saga does leave. We're going to get double the action. Double is better, right? Fantastic. And he joins up. Here's a Starfield of Nyx, and that's just the one that's going to like provide repeatable value. Stick that on our battlefield, and then on upkeep, we can just return a target enchantment card from a graveyard to the battlefield. And if we have 5 or more enchantments, then our enchantments are creatures as well. And they can start beating down as well. It's nice. Pact of Negation, this is like our kind of cheeky counter spell. It's just, I feel like if we're kind of a grindier deck, we should definitely have a Pact at the very least. And it doesn't have to worry about like colored mana, you know. It's so hard to have double blue. So Pact is kind of a better option for us at this point. Just have to make sure we have 2 blue on that upkeep, right? We're gonna die. Here's Swords to Plowshares, just that nice 1-mana removal spell. We just love it. Toxic D, just in that Lord of the Rings art, just ready to take down all the hobbitans, the little hobbitus. And, you know, when we're having, you know, 15-15 and 6-6 Felias, we can start delusion, you know, and we can kind of take care of business. And Commanders should be fun. I'd have to say this card isn't so fun for people, but it exists. You know, this is and if I'm playing against maybe a more competitive pod, even in a casual setting, I'd say that, you know, this is probably the card that's going to do the most damage. Maybe when you're having friends and you're like, don't want to ruin their day and they're playing Mondrak, you know, obviously this card's going to, you know, make them really pissed. But it is what it is. You know, it's there. Here's Incarnation Technique. This is just going to be great to get into some of our creatures in the graveyard and also build our graveyard at the same time. We love that card. Treasure Cruise. This will just benefit. You know, I definitely did have a successful Treasure Cruise on my last game. It's very easy to build a yard. I did it found into the 3rd path. Even though I got kind of interrupted with that card, I still did the graveyard. Still got to get some cards. I got some looks. It's very important. And here's our dual land, basically multi-face land cards. And I kind of limited myself on these because we are running 5 colors. So, I mean, you have to be kind of selective. I do love Shatterskull. I do love Agadeems. I do love Seagate Restoration. I do love Balaget because we're getting the graveyard. I do love Plaza for all our legendaries. I do love the channel lands, Boseiju, Otawara, Takanuma. Of course, Command Tower, nice Command Tower there. City of Brass and Mana Confluence. These are very good because they just, you know, open up our colors and just deal a damage to us and not so bad. Then you have a couple Bant. I have a Bant and a Naya Tri-Land. Those are fantastic. We have plenty of fetch lands here, just operating on a decent amount of fetches. So we definitely have our shock lands represented. We have surveil lands as well, which are fantastic. We love the surveil lands. Yep, we got a couple of those. Got our surveil. Yep, shock lands, of course, which are just very nice. Or very seamless colors. You know, definitely don't have to worry too much about what's going on. You know, I'd say like getting double white is kind of important for like your Elspeth Conquers Death. But other than that, you can be pretty cool. Yeah, you're pretty good. You're pretty good. And maybe you're packed mana, you want to double blue. But it hasn't been too bad to get. And then we have a couple commander lands. We got a couple Verges and also the commander lands that love to have more than 2 opponents. And that is the Tom Bombadil deck. So I hope you enjoyed my singing. the Led Zeppelin. That was Tom Bombadil. Let's take a look at Tom real quick. Make a little short after this. This will be just a little 1-minute deck tech. And you have your Tom Bombadil. We're playing all the Lord of the Rings cards here. They're just all beautiful. Playing with abundance of just a fusion of nice Magic the Gathering cards and Lord of the Rings cards. They all kind of sync together and form this nice harmonious deck. And you can see we didn't go too hard on the sagas. We kind of just, you know, wanted the ones that kind of serve our graveyard. Beautiful Sheldred there. And really just kind of, you know, are useful if, like, you know, say we're not going to, like, get into, like, the worst saga if, you know, we actually do resolve the saga ending. You know, we'll probably have a good chance of getting a decent saga hit the battlefield and not, like, you know, a 2-mana saga that we might not like too much, right? Yeah, the major change I saw was maybe finding a gamble for Bilbo to just help our founding of the 3rd path, probably get there and just kind of give us a little bit more selection. But here's all the nice, beautiful Lord of the Rings cards. You'll see them all in the glory there. Got some nice lands here, of course. Plenty of lands, of course, yes. Woo. And then we had some more spells here at the end. So yeah, that is the deck. Woo. And I appreciate for all joining up. We were kind of on a wave here of subscribers. We made it to 300 quite fast. I think maybe these had, a little bit of that influence to our 400. All you have to do is comment on a video. I'll consider a video, and then I'll randomize the comments on that particular video once we hit 400 from here. And yeah, one of you is I'm going to contact you. You're going to get these sweet cards. So that's fantastic. And yeah, 400 subscribers should be coming sooner than later, I guess. So I appreciate y'all. Thanks for joining with Tom Bombadil. I'll see you soon. Bye.